Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing important topics. Tonight we'll be speaking about a recent meeting between the leaders of Libya here in Egypt. Egypt has always been supportive to the choices of the Libyan people and the role of the Libyan institutions in a way that leads to achieving security, stability and unity in Libya, and has always worked on safeguarding Libya's sovereignty and its people's resources in line with the resolutions of the UN Security Council and the outcomes of Paris and Berlin tracks. Hence, it has hosted this important meeting that took place here in Egypt between the Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives, Aqila Saleh, and head of the Libya's Higher Council of State, Khalid al-Mishri, who agreed to draw a roadmap for finalizing the arrangements necessary to complete the process leading to elections. Tonight we'll be speaking about the Libyan scene, so far the meetings that took place, the role of Egypt that has played in hosting several meetings that in order to be able to help the Libyan brothers to achieve their political stability and security, and hence achieve their prosperity and activate the rule or the regional rule. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have a quick look on the top stories of the day, and we'll be starting with the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, received today the Italian ambassador to Egypt and stressed Egypt's keen interest to enhance bilateral ties with Italy in a range of spheres to achieve joint interests for both countries. Dr. Madbouli said he is looking forward to building on positive momentum of the recent meeting between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Sharm el-Sheikh on the sidelines of the climate change conference. On his part, the Italian ambassador presented many new cooperation fields with Egypt over the upcoming period in the fields of energy, maritime transportation and land reclamation. The Prime Minister's meetings today, and also Dr. Madbouli on Thursday met with Iraqi ambassador to Egypt, Ahmed Naif al-Delami. The Prime Minister asserted Egypt's support to all efforts to achieve development and stability in Iraq. Madbouli stressed the significance of exerting more effort over the upcoming period to put into effect agreements and memoranda of understanding signed earlier between Iraq and Egypt. He added that the efforts are also aimed at speeding up joint cooperation regarding building and reconstruction of Iraq with the participation of Egypt's companies. Back to our topic, but before we delve into our discussion, another important top story took place today where Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held a closed meeting with his Saudi counterpart Faisal bin Farhan in Riyadh. Closed meeting was held between the two ministers ahead of the meeting of the political follow-up committee between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Shoukry started a visit to Saudi Arabia on Wednesday to attend the fifth session of the political follow-up committee between Egypt and Saudi Arabia at the level of foreign ministers. In his meeting with his Saudi counterparts, the foreign minister stressed the Arab security is an indivisible whole and the importance of joint Arab action and full Arab solidarity to preserve Arab national security. He also stressed that Egypt and Saudi Arabia condemned attempts to undermine the security and safety of navigation in Arabian Gulf, the Bab al-Mandab Strait, and the Red Sea, and stressed the importance of supporting and strengthening joint cooperation to ensure freedom of navigation in those pivotal sea lanes. Egypt and Saudi Arabia expressed also their deep concern about the Houthi terrorist militias' continued targeting of the security of international shipping lanes, which negatively affects global energy security and stability of its supplies. Egypt and Saudi Arabia also affirmed the support for the Libyan solution under the auspices of the United Nations and the need to stop foreign interference in Libyan affairs and the rejections of any external dictates to the Libyan brothers. Saudi Arabia called on Ethiopia not to take any unilateral measures regarding the filling and operation of the Renaissance Dam, and to exercise the necessary responsibility and political will to reach a binding legal agreement on the rules of filling and operating the controversial dam. Saudi Arabia expressed its full support for Egypt's water security as an integral part of Arab national security, with full solidarity with all measures Egypt takes to protect its national security. And before we move on with our discussion, let me first take this report on Egypt's welcome outcome of Libyan leaders' Cairo meeting as an important step towards elections. Let's watch.
Egypt welcomed on Saturday the outcomes of last week's meeting between rival Libyan leaders in Cairo as an important step towards holding presidential and parliamentary elections simultaneously as soon as possible. Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives, Aqila Saleh, and head of Libya's Higher Council of State, Khalid al-Mishri, agreed to draw a roadmap for finalizing the arrangements necessary to complete the election process. The announcement comes following talks they both held in Cairo on Thursday. The leaders of Libya's two rival legislative chambers also agreed on referring the country's constitutional document to the two entities to be endorsed. They said the endorsement of the constitutional document will pave the way for holding elections. In a statement on Saturday, the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it welcomes the consensus reached by Saleh and al-Mishri to refer the draft constitutional document to the two entities for approval, with the aim of completing electoral laws and executive measures and unifying state institutions. The ministry cited the UN-sponsored Libyan Constitutional Track Committee that comprises both entities and whose rounds kicked off in the Egyptian capital in April last year as the main track that embodies the will of the Libyan people. It said that the relevant state institutions in Libya take full ownership of this track with the aim to establish the framework for reaching a political settlement in the future. The ministry praised the role played by the two entities in undertaking their responsibilities and expressed aspiration that they fulfill the rest of their tasks in the coming period. Cairo has hosted 3 rounds of the Constitutional Track Committee meetings. During the last round, which was held in June, Libyan leaders reached a consensus on the constitutional framework to hold elections. Libya has witnessed a political stalemate since it has failed to hold the long-awaited elections in December 2021. The country is currently divided between two rival governments, one based in Tripoli, led by Abdelhamid Dbeibeh, and the other appointed by the East-based parliament and led by Fathi Bashagha. Dbeibeh, who has refused to hand over power before holding elections, asserted last week that his government is ready to hold general elections in 2023. Egypt has repeatedly affirmed that holding elections is the only way to resolve the ongoing crisis in Libya. The Foreign Ministry said that Egypt will always remain supportive of the choices of the Libyan people and the role of the Libyan institutions in a way that leads to achieving security, stability and unity in Libya. In a joint press conference following Thursday's talks, al-Mishri said that all Libyan committees have been able to reach a consensus under Egypt's sponsorship on many of the points of the constitutional document. Egypt will also support Libya in a way that leads to the exit of all foreign forces and mercenaries from Libyan lands. It will also work towards safeguarding Libya's sovereignty and its people's resources in line with the resolutions of the UN Security Council and the outcomes of the Paris and Berlin tracks.
Right, welcome back, and let me welcome our guest, Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, political analyst. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
It's been so long, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, you're reading to the Libyan scene and the meeting that took place here.
The Libyan issue today has taken a new trajectory in the last few days, I have to say. With some positive inclination from different rivals for the two of the most important partners coming to Egypt in the last few days. I'm talking about Khalid al-Mishri and Aqila Saleh, and they both are heads of two of the most important institutions in Libya today, and to come together and to sit together and to start to talk with each other after a long process of avoiding each other in Libya and not willing to cooperate. This is, I have to say, a new passage, and we hope in Egypt that this is going to continue. Because what happened during this meeting that was held in the Egyptian parliament was really promising, that they are, and they started to touch the gravity of the situation in Libya, the seriousness of the situation in Libya, and they have to reach solutions. They of course, they understand today. At least we all hope that, because that's what they said after the meeting, that they thanked Egypt for encouraging and hosting such meetings and supporting them, and they also expressed their determination to continue joining hands to reach the constitutional document and endorse it, so which would lead eventually to presidential elections and parliamentary elections. And that visit was followed a couple of days later with another visit from the head of the Mr. Mohammed al-Menfi and Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, to continue also talks. And it looks today clearly that Cairo has turned to be Libyan hub for the partners to come, which is very good. They realize today that Egypt is not any country. Egypt is seeking the upper interest of the Libyan people themselves, and that's what Egypt expressed times and times before. The issue is not supporting one partner against other. The issue is allowing Libyan people themselves to express their minds and to choose for themselves. The issue is to unify the Libyan lands, to preserve the unity of the Libyan geography. The issue for Egypt is a matter of national security in Egypt, to keep Libya safe, to keep Libya united, to keep Libya stable. And we have always to remember that we have a lot of joint things and grounds of interest and mutual interest with the Libyan side. And not only to talk about around 1,170 kilometers of joint border geographically, which is very huge length of border.
Our western borders, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we hope that as they touched this sensation of their vital need to unite today, that this is going to continue, because we remember that, and we have to remember that the presidential election was supposed to be held in 4th of December 2021. Today it's 2 years and a couple of weeks delayed and indefinitely, so nobody knows what will happen.
Let's put the truth on the ground. Now, it's not the Libyan will, because people are always people, and it has never been the will of the Libyan people.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of interference.
Yeah.
And of foreign powers interfering in the Libyan will.
Exactly. This is one of the things that I'm quite sure that the Libyan leaders themselves realize today, that this is not going to take them anywhere but chaos, and they have to accept that. This continuous intervention into the Libyan business and decisions and future-making process, I have to say, is not leading Libya to any good. And they have to, I'm quite sure that they understand it today. Still, the problem is, this equation of public interest and private interest for those groups, political groups in Libya. Whether the public interest of the whole nation, the whole country, Libya as a whole, whether it is superseding the sectarial or personal interests or not. They have to decide today. And I hope, as any other Egyptian, all of us, we hope that they realize that the Libyan nation consideration will supersede over any other consideration for them.
Dr. Ibrahim, if I may take Libya, particularly Libya, as a model for foreign intervention, and what happened when foreign intervention got into a country. Up till this minute, we're speaking about a country since 2011 up till 2023, so 12 years, and it's a non-functional state.
12 years of disintegration, 12 years of absence of the upper national interest sensation between different parties in Libya, 12 years of allowing foreign powers to intervene for each their own, each intervention, they seek their own interests, apart from or regardless where the pure Libyan interests is. Also forgetting where the interests of the Libyan people themselves, where does this interest lie? And probably Egypt was always seeking to display this issue for them. Egypt was not supporting one party against other, but Egypt has always been supporting, clarifying the Libyan scene from international or territorial intervention, from mercenaries, from militias, and there are horrible facts on the ground in Libya. If you know that there are more than 45 million pieces of weapons illegally in Libya, that means, considering that there are some 5 million Libyans living in Libya today, it means that each one has 9 pieces of weapons, each individual. This is disastrous.
Let's talk about the militias before we talk about weapons, because there are lots and lots of mercenaries and militias in Libya that are who are really whose existence is illegal.
Exactly. That displays the horrible fact that they have a lot of challenges, and they have to, I must say it openly, they have to sober very soon, because there are a lot of obstacles in their way. Supposing that they agree today and they join hands today, that's not that easy. That will be just a take-off point. Even if they endorse the constitutional document, if they agreed on election laws and implementation procedures, if they join hands, and if they recognize their national interests, higher and much higher than personal interests, supposing that all of this happened today, they have a lot of challenges to bring back the state, the real states, to sanity. to re-establish and reconstruct their institutions, and to review their, their vision of everything concerning whether they want to be Libya as a civil modern state, or they want just to get back to 1,000 or 5,000 years ago and get back to the tribal era. There are a lot of challenges, and they have to understand
this. Libya is still in the tribal era, and this is why things are very complicated. That brings me to challenges. The biggest challenge is who have the power on the ground to be able to really put things in order. So, if I may re-ask again, the scene in Libya, the scene in Libya, and who is in control, who has the power on the ground?
Well, because this question is really significant, I have to say, Egypt has always been supporting one army in one state, in one parliament, in one institution of one government, which is not the case in Libya. Why Egypt is doing that?
But just to put things into order, we're speaking about the national army.
Yeah, national army.
Parliament.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That should be their upper goal. The Egyptian policy is not supporting individuals or names or titles, but supporting interests, upper interests, national interests of Libya. And they have to understand that the longer they stay on the situation, how they are today, the worse for them in terms of their safety, their security, their development plans, and their future generation commitments on their shoulders to have a real and stable place to live in Libya. And they are responsible before history. And those people who are prolonging, reaching agreements between different rivals there, they have to be held responsible for causing this continuous pain and suffering to the Libyan people themselves as a whole. It's not, I'm not talking about religious or sectorial interests. I'm talking about the Libyan people in general. And well, even if they have such divisions, different ethnicities, different doctrines, different political views, so what? That it happens everywhere in the world. Most of the world countries, they have this sort of diversity in terms of ethnicity, political beliefs, social class, and ethnicities, and such different faces of our colors as humans on the ground. It happens in the States, in Canada, in Egypt, in France, and everywhere in the world. We are different. In each country, we are not the same people. People are not identical. It doesn't mean necessarily that we have to fight each other because we are not identical, we are not the same. No, we have to live in peace. We have to reach common grounds. And there is a lot of common ground indeed that they have to stick to. But probably one of the very bad side effects of personal interests when it supersedes the national interest is they don't see this common ground. They just see their personal aspirations for power and influence, but they don't see the Libyan interest as a national goal for them. They don't see the Libyan people aspirations to regain the Libyan state and one institutions, to regain the Libyan stability and security. And it's very unfortunate that a country like Libya, which is one of the richest in the world and the 9th in the world in terms of oil reserves, and the Libyans should be one of the richest people in the world because they have such fortune, and they are not that big number of inhabitants. So, you know, practically they have to feel that they are very fortunate, but that's not the case, because some leaders, some territorial interventions or international powers, they might not willing for the situation to be stable in Libya for foreign interests, not for Libyan interests themselves. So we hope that they understand this, you know, complexity of the situation in Libya. And I always say
Who
that...
Who should understand this? I mean, here, Libyans, the leaders, who each of them have their own interests with another entity, the outside world. Let me here take it from this perspective. Libya is a matter of concern, of real concern.
That's true.
Particularly for Egypt, but also for the whole Arab world and region.
Yeah. But not as much and as deep
as for Egypt.
And as sensitive as Egypt,
Indeed.
I have to say.
Indeed. So this dangerous situation and the repercussion of this situation, how do you view that? How dangerous the situation can really reflect on Egypt from one side, on the Arab world on the other? How would it lend a hand into the very domestic affairs of the region?
Well, when you talk about Egypt specifically, it's not far in terms of timing or time. When the Egyptian aerial forces have destroyed more than 4,000 vehicles. They were infiltrating through the border from Libyan side to Egyptian side. Most of them were carrying weapons and other smuggled items.
Yes, but the president has put already the red line, and it was never crossed after that.
Yeah, I mean for some time.
Yes.
That's when security and stability is absent in the other side. So that's why we say yes, that we have an interest in the security and stability in Libya. For some time, that was continuing on daily basis. Well, for a particular reason, there are territorial powers also intervening by sending mercenaries and supporting militias and bringing foreign fighters to Libya from other spots like Syria and other places, hot places in the world, because they seek their own interests. It's not against Libya, it's against Egypt, against Algeria, and against Tunisia, against all Arab world. But the closest neighbor usually is the most one, choked or inflicted by the damage of such collapse of security in the Libyan region. So Egypt, when we support stability in Libya, we have several considerations. On top of them, that we have mutual sensation of national security in both Libya and Egypt. That's one thing. Other thing is, if the Libyan side is not there to take their own responsibility of guarding the borderline between the two countries, the whole burden will be lying on Egyptian side, and that's very costly, and it's not easy task. It should be divided between two countries. So it's the security between Egypt and Libya. Other thing concerning economy. Libya and Egypt has always, been in long economic cooperation together. Egypt has always been sending manpower to the Libyan market, and the Libyan market has always welcomed Egyptian workers there. They've been existing for years and years, and it's a win-win situation. When Libyans are not, because of the problems there, an open market anymore, that means side effect for Egyptians who used to go there and work there safely. Also, the Libyans who were ousted, were driven out by the conflict there, We talk about probably 2 million Libyans. Some of them, several tens of thousands, have fled to Egypt, to Tunisia, and to other countries in the Arab world. And above all, those who are still living in Libya, the Libyan people themselves, they are not feeling safe. They are not feeling secured with this huge number of weapons at the hands of individuals, and that big number of militias, and this large number of foreign powers intervening in their internal affairs of the Libyan people themselves. It's a very gloomy picture. And it has taken long enough. I have to, if we talk about
12 years.
12 years today, that's more than enough. I mean, it shouldn't take that long for them to realize that enough is enough, and they have to start from today to, a new passage where they accept each other, where they are willing to live together again and coexist together and look for the future instead of the past. And they have to seize the opportunity. And Egypt is always, supporting Libyans, backing Libyans, opening the theater in Egypt here for the rivals to come and to meet, and to Egypt is mediating in a way to bring them together, make their stances closer to each other, paving the way for them. Even Egypt expressed several times in many levels, from the the middle until the top, the head of the Egyptian political leadership expressed Egyptian readiness to support reconstruction and retraining of Libyan institutions when once they are ready for taking the responsibility again.
Once they function.
And stay function. Yes.
Once they function.
Yeah, that's true.
Logically and theoretically, this is very true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, practically, this is not the case.
It's still far.
It is, no, it's not far. It's just, right. Let me take it from another perspective. The Libyan instability might seem to be beneficial for some other entities, some other powers.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's not. It should be a matter of concern even for other parties who are really interfering.
That's not a rule, by the way. Yes, you were right. It's beneficiary for many partners, like the militias, like the weapons dealers, who are sending weapons and sending militias and mercenaries to Libya. They gain money.
Like
so
people who are very much interested in the oil,
in the oil, and drying Libyan resources, money, etc., and extending influence on different spots of wealth and resources in Libya.
like people who are putting some pressures, or entities that are putting some pressures for countries to try to get part of some of the division.
Exactly. So, and it must be clear for the Libyans, this equation or this problem. Well, let me put it that way. Once there is a country, a wealthy country, strong country with a strong economy and a lot of potentials like Libya, there must be a lot of aspirations, and sometimes these aspirations are not legitimate, are not acceptable, and who will say this is legitimate or not? The Libyan people themselves. They are mature enough. They have to join hands, and they have to close the way in the face of those who used to intervene in the last 12 years in the Libyan internal affairs with a voice of welcome from different factions in Libya, which is a great mistake. And they have, well, later they will regret that. The Libyan factions themselves, they will regret that. When they understand that whoever is doing that is not seeking their own interests as Libyans, but seeking the foreign interests rather than the Libyan interest itself, well, that they will regret that issue. So what I say is, we shouldn't stay longer, and we have to realize this today. We have to, join hands and push forward the Libyan brothers in terms of, I'm talking about the leaders who came to Cairo and still coming to Cairo. And by the way, this visit is not new. It has been there for years and years.
Yes.
But we hope that the last ones are more serious and more more visibility. There is more visibility in the eyes of the leaders that they have to join hands today, and they are very late.
Today we have seen the meeting between the Egyptian foreign minister and his Saudi counterpart in Riyadh. And one of the main files was Libya. How do you view a Gulf role in the stability of Libya, if that could do?
I will talk specifically about Saudi Arabia role, which is very obvious. Saudi Arabia is one of the most important players in terms of Arab affairs, and it has to be that way. Saudi Arabia is, and Saudi Arabia is one of the greatest Arab, countries that is able to support and intervene to support. And we as Arabs and Muslims look at Saudi Arabia as a magnet for aspirations and love and closeness. So Saudi Arabia is very unique in that term, and they play a very good role in terms of supporting what Egypt is doing today. Egypt and Saudi Arabia, two major powers in the Arab world and in the Middle East, and they are mainly responsible for intervening in such situations like the one in Libya and any threat that face any other Arab country. Saudi Arabia and Egypt, they always join hands in terms of any threat. Hopefully this is going to be reflected in the coming days, because Aqil Saleh and Khalid al-Mishri, well, they started a conference, preparatory conference for 2 days. Today is the second day, for preparing, for endorsing the constitutional document.
Yes.
And that's really good move. So we all support that. We need all of them to be supportive to the positive move.
With this hope, we are just hoping for this upcoming future to reveal more and more paths on the right track. Yeah. Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, political analyst, we thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
And I guess that brings us to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching, and next debate will be on Sunday, so enjoy.